You guys all know about Stellar Blade. We've all heard about it. We've all seen it. It's hard not to, frankly. But it released. However, there was a scandal that erupted over the weekend tied to its launch. And it all has to do with false advertising, false statements, blah, blah, blah. Statements made by Sony that people felt were, what's the word? Lies. And so naturally, people are a little bit upset about it. Basically, PlayStation came out beforehand, before the game released, and said very clearly that Stellar Blade was going to launch, or I'm not sure if it was technically Sony that said it. I think it was technically the game's developer and studio said it. But they said Stellar Blade will be uncensored globally. Like they're not cutting anything out of it. They're not doing that. It is launching in its purest form. Nothing will be altered for its final release, right? That's what they said. And they said this like in the week leading up to the game's launch. But then the game drops and there's a day one patch, as there is with pretty much every single game that drops. And what happened was people started comparing stuff. So after this update happened, people noticed that compared to previous versions of the game, some of Eve's outfits were toned down, with some elements being introduced to cover the heroine up a little bit more. In a comparison between two images, one Reddit user, of course on Reddit, showed how a particular outfit in Stellar Blade had been toned down with Shift Up, incorporating another layer of clothing that made the cosmetic ever so slightly less revealing. The item in question looks like some kind of one-piece swimsuit, and thanks to changes made by Shift Up, the developer, that swimsuit now has another layer beneath it, extending to cover Eve's hips and breasts a little bit more. So here's the little side-by-side comparison. So the 1.0 update that they dropped, or the 1.0 version that's on the disc when you buy it, versus the 1.002 update that's the day one patch. And so they equipped the same outfit, and then they compared it, and there's like a piece of cloth in between, like over the cleavage, and then the portion over the hips spreads out another layer so that it's more covering. And people called for like boycotts of the game. People started calling for, Sony to, as the publisher, to be punished for false advertising, to be sued by it, and all of that. One of the biggest points of the debate ahead of the game's release was centered around the objectification of the main character, Eve. It's no big secret that Shift Up designed her character to be as curvy and eye-catching as possible, but that was a sore spot for many, and it kicked off a vibrant debate as to the necessity of the character looking the way she does. Now, a petition has surfaced to remove the apparent censorship from Stellar Blade. Yes, really. Dude, how do they phrase it, though? Free Stellar Blade. It's a petition. Okay, we believe in Shift Up. We are asking to get the game we believed in. Revert the censorship changes, patch the game, and you'll find that even more gamers will join you and support you. So they have 48,000 signatures right there. 12,000 people signed today. So here's where I'm at with it, okay? Here's where I'm at. Do they have the original? They don't have the original thing linked. Let me find the original statement. This is what they said on April 22nd. So like a week ago. They said Stellar Blade will release uncensored in all regions. And that's how they described it. It's not going to have anything altered. Yeah, older examples of Dead Space where EA's Japan GM Sean Noguchi wondered out loud what the difference between Stellar Blade's violence and their own violence was when they were rejected for a rating in Japan. So they said clearly it's not going to be censored, and the game as it had been shown off would be released. And so when people finally saw it with the day one patch, they did the before and after side by side, and they're like, clearly changes were made. And everybody that's very upset about this is blaming Sony for compelling them to do this. My understanding is that the devs have come out and said, no, we wanted to do this, but everybody's like, they're probably made to say that by Sony. So who knows who's actually responsible for the changes. Is it kind of funny to call for boycotts because there's an extra layer of clothing that covers up some of the cleavage and makes the hips a little less visible? Is that funny to be that upset about it? It's a little funny, you have to admit. The problem is that it's an altered version when it was promised that it was going to be completely unaltered, that it was going to be uncensored. So people feel lied to, especially because it was done in sort of a sneaky way where they release the game, you get the physical copy, it does a day one update patch, And it's in that patch that it's changed. So the version of the game that they shipped, literally physically shipped to people, is different than the version that they're actually delivering. Not just with balance updates, which there are balance updates. It's not like that's the only thing that was altered in this update, the day one patch. There's also other things, like apparently they balanced some boss encounters. They did some fixes and refinement, bug fixes, optimization, stuff like that. So there is an actual improvement there in addition to this other stuff. But people feel like the game's been censored. And as you bring up, Blake, it's not just, you read my mind, it's not just outfits, despite what you might hear from a lot of publications. There's also, let me see if there's a side-by-side. The gore and like blood effects and stuff have also been allegedly censored as well. Where is this? Yeah, and then like this, where this is the original outfit, and then in the updated outfit, she's wearing leggings. But like with all this stuff, there's a number of outfits that have been toned down in how aggressively scantily clad they are. But then there's also changes to stuff like gore. So it doesn't seem like it's purely just cosmetic adjustments or something. It seems like there was a concerted effort to make this more toned down across the board, and people feel as though that they were lied to. And I think that's where I can understand the frustration more. Like, as you guys are bringing up, like Baldur's Gate 3 is worse nudity wise. Yeah, there's straight up full nudity and sex scenes and everything in Baldur's Gate. Some fairly graphic and telling. So, and same like The Witcher 3 and all that. There's all of that stuff that you can point to where there's more egregious examples of scantily clad individuals or full nudity in games. That's not really the problem. The problem is that the community feels like either the developers wanted to make one game and they were forced to make another, or even if they wanted to make these changes, they were pitched and sold one game that they can see in the 1.0 update, and then in the 1.002 update, the game is, I wouldn't say maybe substantively different, if that's a word. It's different in its presentation, and it's been watered down. Exactly. Fool's muddy, the water, and why it's bad. This is why you buy physical, the original versions, no matter what. Well, but also it's different. So, oh wait, Leo says, maybe this is why I couldn't find the article on it that I had seen before. Blood thing was debunked. Eve was more covered in blood in trailers and demo because it entered a cutscene in the release. There is no cutscene and the game just continues. Okay, so people were looking at that and interpreting that the gore was tuned down. Okay, so with that knowledge, Leo, the one and only Leo Lee, that is one of our fantastic mods here on Luke Stevens Live. With that knowledge, and that would imply that in addition to like balancing updates and stuff, all of the updates to the outfits kind of stand out as the only cosmetic alteration that's been made in the game. Not just like there wasn't also gore, it was just the outfits, and all of the outfits have been altered to make them like, they're still not really PC, they're still not really politically correct or what I would consider to be like pleasing to the types of people that are really upset about Stellar Blade, but they're less revealing at the end of the day. And I don't know, I mean, it does seem like something or somebody got a call and they needed to tone it down a little bit and make it less revealing. Whether that's what they had to do to get it approved for release or not, it's not really clear at this point, but it does seem like the game was altered from the original intention to tone it down. And if you want to like boycott the game over that, you know, more power to you. The game is still a great game. Like, the combat's still great. The encounters are great. Like, mechanically, it's a very solid game. But it does seem like somebody got a call to tone it down to keep people or keep somebody more happy. And that's frustrating because you would hope that artists and developers could just make exactly the game they want to make. For me, I've told you guys, I'm already like so burnt out on boycotts. I just, for one, they don't work. As far as we could tell. I mean, the game that had the biggest calls for boycotts probably in recent history was Hogwarts Legacy, and that was the most successful game of the year. So calling for boycotts, I don't think really does it. What I think has much more success is open mockery and teasing, and we've seen that with like Tarkov so far, where even like Helldivers developers are making fun of the Tarkov devs for the stupid stuff that they've been doing over the last few days. And I think that mockery can work very, very well. But like, as with all this, it's just for you to decide if that's what you want to do, if you want to pursue refunds, if you want to cancel your pre-orders, whatever. That is totally up to you. Somebody within the Asmongold subreddit showed that they were able to get a refund for the game after claiming that the reason for the refund was false advertisement. So it does seem like PlayStation is refunding people if you tag it that way. Do I think some people were saying that they could file like a class action lawsuit or something? I don't think this is an egregious enough offense to do that. Like, I just don't think you would win, frankly, because I think you take it to a judge and be like, see, they put an extra layer of cloth around her crotch and over her cleavage. And I think the judge would laugh at you. Yeah, it would be a literal booba lawsuit. I don't think you'd win, frankly. So in that case, just vote with your individual wallet. If you are very upset about this, refund the game, because it seems like they'll actually give it to you. For me, I mean, I can understand why some people are upset on principle, but like at the end of the day, still, it's a little funny to be very, very upset to the point where you made a petition because the character is a little bit less scantily clad. I get why you're upset, and if you want to refund the game, I'm not going to make fun of you. Like, that's fine. It's a little funny, okay? It's a little bit funny. It's just a tad hilarious. Yeah, and if you really, really are upset about it, buy the physical copy. But like I said, there's apparently a handful of issues with balancing in the unbalanced game from the 1.0 update, because in that day one patch, they did a number of performance improvements and balances and stuff. So you're going to be playing a different version of the game. The angry people are all teenagers. Well, like, people ask me why I didn't review the game, and honestly, like, it's just because I did that I tried on it, and the review would have done fine or even well. But for me, it's just the people that were, this game was being orbited by two groups of people. The people that were the really, really anti-Stellar Blade types that were like, this is like a pure form of sexism. It's everything wrong with the gaming industry that we fought to overcome, blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff before they realized like the character model was a scan of a real human being. They were like, see, nobody looks like that. And they're like, no, somebody does actually look like that. Look over here. This is her. You know, then they walked it back pretty quick. But like, there's that group of people that were just super toxic in their own right. And then there's another group of people on the other side that were, you saying you want to enjoy Stellar Blade privately? Kind of. No, like, then the other group of people were the guys that were like the incel types that we all know, like, they're very, that there's a small subset of people like that are really, really into this game. We all know that there's a group of people like that are really into this and those outfits for those reasons. And those people were also on the other side of the spectrum, equally toxic in their own way, where if I was not talking enough about how sexy the character was in my video, I was part of the problem and I was woke and all that. And it was just it was just kind of annoying. So it was enough of a headache to balance between those two that I was like, you know what, I'll just play the game because the game is good. The game is a good game. The mechanics are good, gameplay is good, stories bleh, but the gameplay is really solid, which is why you should be playing this game. So I'll play it myself. As Leo said, I'll play with Stellar Blade by myself. And I'll have a good time with it. But I don't think I'm gonna like try to do a ton of content on it because I'm just the headache is killing me. No, to be fair, it's not just like a couple of comments, to be clear. Like, there's also many other things. Like, we have been working very hard. We've produced like 8 or 9 videos in the last, whatever it is, 11 days or something like that. So we've been working very, very hard, and to do a Stellar Blade review would have been quite disruptive, and we wouldn't have been able to do a lot of the other stuff that you'll be seeing in the coming weeks. So, you know, we were just picking our battles. But it's like, if I'm going to pick to like play a game just for me and for fun, or make content for it, if I have the option between a game that I can play and have fun with just by myself, and then, you know, or I can do this and it's going to be a headache and I'm going to be like trying to walk a tightrope to like the one guy that got upset because I referred to somebody as like a monkey brain. I was like, yeah, the monkey brain likes the booba. And somebody's like, actually, I'm not a monkey. I was made in my God's image. It's like, Okay. Okay. We're just gonna chill. Either way, Stellar Blade is a fun game. Mechanically, it's really good. If you want to boycott it over this stuff, more power to you. If you want to get a refund, go for it, because it seems like they are issuing refunds to people who file them. I'm playing it, having a good time, enjoying it as a video game, but I also can understand why you might want to not purchase it for, like, out of principle. Like, I can understand that at least. Well, actually, Luke, yeah, literally monkey brain when neuron activates saying booba. Well, actually, I'm not a monkey. I'm an ape. It's different. Actually, well, actually, are we closer in DNA structure to mushroom anyways? Actually, our DNA is extremely close to pigs, which is why pigs are often used to genetically test different medications that will eventually affect humans. So actually, Luke.